We'll wait for a few more minutes for you guys to waiting for students to come in. But by the way, just read the test 2 informations here. You guys got my email regarding with this test 2 information. Please do read it. If you have questions, you can ask me. So here, gonna wait for a minute. Anyone have any questions with this test 2 informations?
So is there a place where we hand in a review?
It's gonna be you hand in the test 2 review when you take your test.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So when you take the test on Monday or Wednesday, either the 15 or 17, when you come and take the test, the first thing I will collect is your test 2 review. All right, so we're gonna start class today. So first thing first, the test 2 informations and the review. So your test 2 is gonna be next Monday and also next Wednesday, depending on your last name. So this time your last name that starts from M to Z will be on Monday. Wednesday will be those who start from the last name A to M. There will be no Zoom meeting on next week because it's a test week. So you have to email me if you want to switch your dates around. So I do have a couple students already email me. So if you want to switch your dates around, you have to email me. And I just want to point out also that on Thursday, November 18 and Friday, November 19, I won't be at school. So I'm taking some trip after all this testing. I got lots of tests. So make sure you guys, if you want to make up your test, it's either 15, 16, or 17. These are the only 3 days you have to do your test here for test 2. The time is from 12 o'clock to 1:30. Is in CRA 114. It covers chapter 7, 7475, and chapter 8, 81 to 86, except 8.5. We do not do 8.5 in this classroom, in this class. Your test has 12 questions actually. You are allowed to use your calculators. Either scientific or graphing calculators are allowed during the test. So you can use your graphing calculator if you want to. And 7.5 formula is provided in this test. So you do not need to memorize the 7.5 formula. In addition, you also can allow to use 1 page of your notes, written notes, just the front page. Whatever you want to write, whatever you want to print, whatever you type, up to you, how big, how small, what you want. But the page, the note has to be a regular size paper, not the extra big ones, and just only the front page. The extra credit, there's only 1 student take the math test, so that means the extra credit won't. So there will be no extra credit for this test except for the student who came take the math test last Friday. So anyway, so that it will be scratched out except for 1 student who took it. The review. So this review, the one down here, is it's a mandatory for you guys to do. The reason why I want you guys to do your review here is because your review test 2 looks very similar to test 2. So if you did not do your review test 2, I would just say you probably flunked the test 2. I can tell you that. Okay, so please print this review test 2, write your name, and then work on the review test 2. This review test 2 will contribute 10 points to your test 2. It's not an extra credit, it's 10 points. So if you don't do it, you lose 10 points automatically. If you do partially, then depends on how many questions you do. So there are 10 questions in this review. Every question's worth a point. So if you do partially, you still earn some points there. So I would recommend you guys to print this, do it, write your name, and do the review. And this review is due when you take your test 2. So if your test 2 is on Monday, give it to me during the test 2 time when you take your test 2. If it's on Wednesday, give it to me on Wednesday. So you don't do it, you don't submit to online. You have to give it to me in person when you do the test. The test 2, the review test 2 looks something like this. Again, you have to show me the work. This is 10 points. It's not an extra credit to your test 2. It will be added to your test 2. And your test 2 are very similar to these questions. So I would recommend you guys, highly recommend you guys to do this kind of questions. So I can guarantee that if you don't do these questions, you probably will be failing my test 2. Guarantee. Okay, so please do it. So there are 10 questions here. So every question is worth a point. So make sure, including the parts, so that this whole thing is, the whole question was a point. So this is a quarter point each. So work on it, and I will look at how you do it. And this 10 points will be added to your test 2. Anyone have any questions with your test 2 and the review? Questions? All right. So I have a homework questions on 8.3, which is number 14. Does anyone have any homework questions for me? This 8.3 and 8.4 is due this coming Wednesday. So make sure you guys work on it. So 8.3 and 8.4 is due this coming Wednesday by midnight. So number 14 is someone asking me this. So again, this is not in your test, but I will show it to you how to do quick 8.3 question number 14 here. Anyone have any questions for me? All right, so this question is given us this 2 vector. Again, my vector is a bit weird, but it looks like vector u and vector v. And the question here is asking us to find what is u plus 2v. Okay, so the vector here is asking us sketch the graph for u plus 2v. So how do we sketch addition? Okay, so when you do addition, so I'll be just a graph. So let's say that you got vector u, this is vector u, and let's say this is vector v. Let's do the other one. So it will not be the same as this example. So this is vector v. So in order for you to figure out the addition of this, is you have to draw me a parallelogram. So a parallelogram means 2 parallel sides. So the parallelogram for this will look like this. This is the vector v, and then this is vector u. Okay, so in order for us to do vector u plus vector v, what you need to do in this case is you have to connect the vertex to your endpoint of the parallelogram. So this is u plus v. Okay. In order for us to do u minus v, vector u minus vector v, what do we need to do is the v is a negative. So if this is v is positive, the v is negative means it goes totally different direction. So this is the meaning of the vector v that is a negative vector v, means you go the opposite direction. So if this is going southeast, then this goes to northwest, okay, the other direction. And in order for you to do u minus v, again, what we do is we draw the parallelogram. This is the meaning of parallelogram, and then you connect from one point the vertex and the endpoint here. So this is actually is u minus v. Okay. So usually if you want to add vectors or subtract vectors, what do we do in this case is we will draw a parallelogram and you just connect the vertex from one end to another end. Now this question is asking us for u, vector u plus 2v. So in this case, in order for us to find 2v, 2v means we double the vector v. So this is vector v. So double means we double it. So this is 2v now, because it's double. So in order for us to find vector u plus 2v, you just need to draw me the parallelogram. So it will look something like this. This is the parallelogram. And what you do is you just take that our vertex origin is our vertex. So this is vector u plus 2b. So the orange line that I draw is vector u plus 2b. So can someone tell me which one is the vector u plus 2b? Is that A, B, C, or D?
It would be A.
It would be A, yep. Again, this is not drawn on the scale. This is drawn on the scale. So this is supposed to be, if I draw it nicely, if you draw me the parallelogram, the parallelogram actually will end in the y-axis here. So this is your vector A. This is the u plus 2b. Anyone have any questions for me? Oops, sorry. Anyone? All right. So again, this is not going to be tested in your test. So just for extra work here. So we're going to talk something that's on your test. So we'll talk about that one. It's also on your review. So this is the last question we're going to talk about. Is question number 15. We are still in 8.3. We still have a little bit left in 8.3 that we did not go over. So the last question here is number 15 here. So this question is saying that you got two forces with a magnitude of 125 newtons and 300 newtons act on a hook with the positive x-axis. So what does that mean here is that you got two, so this is the x and y axis. You got two force. Force means vector. So you got two vector. One vector is 125 Newton and the other one is 300 Newtons act on a hook with the positive x-axis. So the angle between the two forces is 45 degrees. Usually, if you look at the picture looks like, if you do your homework, it's on 8.3 also, your return home or your online homework. Where was the picture? There should be a picture. Where is the picture? There you go. So this is a picture in this case. Usually I will tell you which is V and which is U. So usually the first one is V and the second one is U. So this is actually the last question in your homework here. So based on these questions here, this is vector U and this is vector V. And this is 45 degrees. Okay, so this is 45 degrees. So let's say that the first one in this case is a vector V. So in this case, your vector V in this case is 125 Newton. That's your magnitude. So this is 125 Newton. Newton is the unit for force. And vector U is 300 Newton. So this is vector U, which is 300 Newtons. So the question in this case is you have to find the direction and the magnitude of the resulting force. So this question wants us to find the magnitude and the directions of the resulting force. Now, what's the meaning when I ask for resulting force? The resulting force means you take vector U plus vector V. So this is the meaning of resulting force. So what we just did here on your picture here, this is the U plus V. So in order for us to figure out U and V, this U is a bit longer here. The reason why the vector U is a bit longer is because 300, the length is longer than 125. So in order for us to find the resultant force means you have to take vector, you have to draw the parallelogram. And like what we just did on the previous question here. And you draw me this arrow here. So this purple line that you draw is what we call as your resulting force, or the same thing as vector U plus vector V. So in order for you to find this resulting force, you have to add them up. So let's look at vector U first. Now, in order for you to write vector U in a resulting force, we will write this as, because this is in 0, so we will use what we call as a direction angle, where you do U vector, the magnitude of U, the mag of cosine theta, And the magnitude of u, because we're doing u, not v, sine theta. So this is like your what we call as your direction form, where if you look at your unit circle, your x values is cosine, your y values is sine. So this is the same thing. So for the vector u, this is actually is 300, because that's a magnitude of vector u, cosine 0. The reason why this is at 0 degrees is because this vector is on the x-axis. So that means it is on the 0 degrees, and 300 sine 0. Can someone tell me what is cosine 0 and what is sine 0 degrees? Anyone? Cosine 0 and sine 0? Cosine 0 is
it 1?
cosine 0 is 1, and what is sine 0? Sine 0
0.
is, yep, 0. So in this case that this will be 1 and this will be 0. So what happens when you multiply this? You will get just 300 and 0. So vector u in this case is 300 and 0. The reason why you get 300 is because 300 times 1 is 300. And the reason why you get 0 on the other one is sine 0 is 0. So 300 times 0 is 0. So I'm going to use this as your set of parentheses. Make sure you guys put this in your, so this is for vector u. Okay. Now we need to find vector v. So the same thing, we figure out vector u here. So in order for you to find vector v, we will use the same thing, but this time we use v here. So the magnitude of v in this case is 125 cosine of 45 degrees, because our angle for vector v is 45 degrees, and 125 sine 45 degrees. So this is your direction angle here. So what is cosine 45 degrees? Anyone?
Root 2 over 2.
Root 2 over 2. And sine 45 degrees?
Root 2 over 2 as well.
So root 2 over 2. So when you multiply this, you will get 125 root 2 over 2 and 125 root 2 over 2. So this is for vector v that we have here. So resulting force means you add them. So now how do we add these two is you just add the same component. So we will take this plus that. So you take 300 plus 125 root 2 over 2. And we just take 0 plus that, but 0 plus that is you get back the same thing. So you get 125 root 2 over 2. So this is the resulting force. So if I want you to find what is this coordinates, the coordinates is this is your x coordinates, this is your y coordinates. So this is your resulting force in this case. So this question wants us to find the magnitude of it. So we want to find the magnitude of this. So magnitude means it's an absolute value. So this is how you find the magnitude of this. In order for you to find a magnitude is you take this whole thing square plus that whole thing square, and then you take the square root. So can someone has a calculator? Can you type this in your calculator? What is this value is? So 300 plus 125 root 2 over 2. Yep, take out your calculator and square root of 2. Anyone got an answer here? And then you're gonna do the same thing on the other one, 125 root 2 over 2. Anyone has an answer? And please, you cannot round this answer.
Is the 125, 459?
No, 300 plus this is what?
Oh,
3,
oh, that's a 2. I thought that was a 17.
8, 8.3883476. This is what you get for the 300 plus that. And
Oh.
this one is 8.388. So you cannot round this number because this is not your final answer. So what you need to do with this is you have to take this to find the magnitude. You have to take this follow square. So this number will be 388.388 square, and then you take 88.388, the whole thing, this 2 square, and add up at the square root. Anyone got an answer here for this? Nick, is that what you try to tell me?
No, that wasn't it. I did the math wrong. Let me grab it. Square root.
Anyone
And
got
it's
it?
the full number, right? Because
Yep.
there's no rounding.
Now you can round on this one because it's your final answer.
Oh,
So when you put this is not your final answer. That's why you cannot round this. But I'm not very picky because your online homework will be picky. If you want to round a little bit for my test, I'm fine with it. But your online homework is a little bit picky here. And the unit is Newton. Anyone? It's all very heavy on calculator piece.
You're asking for a final answer?
Yep.
I got 398.32 rounded.
Yep, something around that. Yep, that's correct. 398.32 or 398.3. If you got close to it, I'm happy. But make sure you guys know, I know your online homework is peaky here. So this is what we call the magnitude. So this is a question asking us to find the magnitude. So this is the magnitude, okay? And the question is also asking us to find the direction, okay? Now, in order for you to find the direction, you use the tangent because the direction will be this. This is theta, okay? And because if you convert this back, this is actually a right angle because if you look at this, this is your x value and this is your y value. This is your x value and this is your y value. Okay, so if you because it's a coordinate, so in order for us to use this, because this is opposite and adjacent, so we use tangent. So katoa. So tangent theta in this case is y over x. Y in this case is this number 8.88. 388, all these numbers. And then x in this case is this value, 388.388, this number. And then you have to divide this. And once you finish divide it, in order for you to find the theta, you have to move the tangent and the tangent become arctangent. So in this case, you just need to move this. So what is arctangent of y over x here? Again, try your best not to round as much as you can because otherwise you will get it a little bit off. Anyone got theta in degrees? Anyone?
I got 12.82.
Yep, 12.82 is correct. Okay, now this is something I want to point out to students here. This direction angle that you give to me, 12.82, is not always the correct answer. You have to watch out. That's why I put all these 3-star here. You have to watch out the quadrant. Okay, so what I want to point out to you here is if you look at this X and Y, can you tell me what quadrant is this belongs to? If if you look at this picture, what quadrant is this point belongs to, this group?
Oh, would
Quadrant
would it be the first quadrant?
This is a quadrant 1. So make sure that it is 12.82 degrees in quadrant 1.
Yes.
Yes. So this is a correct one. Now, sometimes, I just want to point out to you, sometimes when you do this question, the question can go like, go this way, and this is vector U, and then this is vector V. And then your resulting force is this. This is your resulting force U plus V. And you find out that what happens to this number is going to be negative and negative because this is in quadrant what? Anyone know what quadrant is this the resulting force at?
Quadrant 3.
Quadrant 3. So what happened is that when you divide, this will be negative, this will be negative. When you divide, you're still going to get 12.82. However, 12.8, if you give me this answer here that your theta in this case is 12.82 degrees, you get it wrong. This one is right because this is in quadrant 1, but since this is in quadrant 3, the 12.82 that you find is just this, this theta. So actually you have to do what? This is the direction for this case. So what is the right answer for this case? $192.82. Yep. So in this case, in order for you to figure out this, you have to add 180 degrees. So this is actually the direction in this case is 192.82 degrees. So this is something I want to point out to you guys is if this is in quadrant 1, good, then that number you get is in quadrant 1. If this is in quadrant 3, then you have to add 180 degrees to it. Okay, so I'm going to show you some, because this is very important for these sections, chapter 8.3, 8.4, the vectors, and 8.6, because a lot of students in my test, they did not follow the quadrants correctly, and that's why they make it wrong. And if this is wrong, it's like a domino effect. Everything behind is wrong. So make sure you guys know that if your vectors is in quadrant 1, it's good news. You do not need to worry about that. If your whatever you find in your calculator, you need to. If this is in quadrant 3, you have to add 180 degrees or add pi. Depends if you're talking about degrees or radian. What happens if this is in quadrant 2? So the angles that you find here are 12.8 degrees is this fellow. This is 12.8. Let's say your angle that you find here is 12.8 degrees. Okay, that's what you find. This is 12.8. So what happens in quadrant 2 is you have to take 180 minus theta. Okay, or pi minus theta. So in order for you to find what is the angle, direction angle for if it's in quadrant 2, is 180 minus whatever theta you find, if your theta is positive. What happens if this is in quadrant 4? Then the theta that you have is right here. But as you know that the direction goes all the way from x-axis to here. So how do you find the direction in this case? Anyone? The theta is 12.8. How do you find the direction for this case? You have to take 360 minus theta or 2 pi minus theta. So if this is 12.8, then this is also 12.8. So this is 360 minus 12.8. So this is 40 something. So this is how you figure out what happens when your theta is positive and what quadrant it belongs to. And how do you know this is in quadrant 1? If you look at your direction angle, both the first and the second component is positive. In quadrant 3, both the components are negative. If it's in quadrant 2, your x component is negative, but your y component is positive. If it's in quadrant 4, the other way around, your x is positive, your y is negative. So just be careful with this. A lot of students make these mistakes here. So it's not always in quadrant 1. It can be 2, 3, and 4. So that is something that I will always tell my students to watch out. Okay. Questions, anyone, with this 8.3 here? We're going to continue with 8.4 today. So that's your homework 8.3 and 8.4. So next we're going to talk about is a dot product. So what is a dot product of two vectors? So if you have u1 vector u is u1 u2 component form and v is v1 and v2. So the dot product u dot v, or u not multiply, so be careful with this. This is not multiply, this is a dot, is u1 times v1 plus u2 times v2. This dot product is a scalar. What is a scalar means? A scalar means that this is just a number, not a vector. Okay, so a vector usually you can write that in like bold or in arrow with the component form or direction form or the linear combination form. But when you do a dot product, you don't. You just that dot product in this case is just a number like 3, 10, 1/5. Okay, not a vector. And there are a few properties of dot products. U dot v is the same thing as v dot u. If you dot this with a 0, 0 dot with v, you get 0. And if you have a dot product with an addition of two vectors, you can actually distribute the vector u. If you dot the same thing, u dot u or v dot v, you will get the magnitude. This is called the magnitude square. Okay, so remember last time in your in the previous example, in order for you to find the magnitude, you take the square root of the first component square plus the square the second component square. So this, when you dot yourself, the square root will be cancelled because it is taken care of. Okay, and this is also very important. It's the second one here, the angle direction. So if I'm giving you two vectors, okay, how do you figure out the angle of this? So for example, in this case is you got two vectors. This is vector u and this is vector v. You want to figure out what is the angle formed by u and v, formed by these two vectors here. The angle formula in this case is given us by cosine of u. Cosine theta is u dot v over by magnitude of u times the magnitude of v. And then in order for you to find the theta, you just move the cosine over, become the arc cosine, like what we did on your law of sine, law of cosine. You move the cosine to make it arc cosine. So you can also rewrite the dot products as magnitude of u times the magnitude of v cosine theta. So that means that how do I get this? Is I just multiply this denominator to here. So that's why the u dot v is magnitude of u times magnitude of v cosine theta. So this is what we call as the alternate form of dot product. So dot product here has two formula here. One formula is if I give you the what is the component form for u and v, you just multiply it. But if I give you the magnitudes of u and v and also the theta between those two, you can find the dot products using this formula. U dot v equals to magnitude of u times magnitude of v cosine theta. So make sure you guys know which one we use, but I can tell you that this is what we use the most in your homework, in your test. This not so much, I'm not going to cross it, but we use this, but the alternative form, but not as much as the first one that we have. And the last one we're going to talk about is orthogonal vectors. What is orthogonal vectors? Orthogonal vectors means the two vectors form 90 degrees of perpendicular. So example is if you have vector u here and vector v here, so this is what we call as orthogonal, means these two vectors are perpendicular, means form 90 degrees. This is only happens when you do the dot product and the dot product of these two vectors is equals to 0. So this is what we call as the orthogonal vectors. So so let's talk about this vector here. So so this is the question is asking us that you find the u dot v, given us u is this component form and v is this component form. So the formula to find that, let me show to you how do we do this. Oops, sorry. Yeah, no, I know that. Okay, so this is 8.4 question 1. So given us that vector u is -2, 5, and vector v in this case is -1, -8. So you need to find u dot v. So how do we find this? Is you take the x, the first component, which is this fellow, and you multiply it. Can someone tell me what is -2 times -1?
+2.
Okay, plus you take the second component and you multiply it. What do you get?
-40.
And then you add these two up. So what's 2 plus -40?
-38.
-3. This is your answer. Okay. My question to you is this two vector orthogonal? So to make sure that they are orthogonal, the dot product has to be exactly what? 0. Is this 0? So
No.
So this is not orthogonal. So in order for it to orthogonal, this number has to be 0. So that's how this is easy, right? This is not tough. So I want you guys to get in groups and do question 2, A, B, and C. Yep, I'm putting in group. So if you take a pictures, if you need to, question 2, A, B, C. I want you guys to take a picture. If you don't have the notes, take a picture of this. You're going to do A, B, C here, and they are dots, so very similar. We don't do orthogonal yet, but I want you to do that. So go ahead, take a picture, and I'll break you guys into groups. Use your phone. The next test, you will get my notes, so you do not take a pictures anymore. You're going to write on the notes here. You guys got this? Question 2, A, B, C? And I am going to break you guys into groups. Break up groups. Let's do this. Right, goes to your groups now. Anyone here knows how to do question 2A? Anyone here know how to do question 2A?
You just like distribute the 3 in the U.
So you get what?
9, 9.
And the V
Negative
is,
4, 2.
yep, there you go. Thank you so much. And now what is the dot product of these two?
Negative
Negative 24
36
and 12.
plus 18.
Yep, so it's negative 36 plus 18, which is what? Negative 18, right?
Yeah.
Now the question here also wants you to figure out, is this a vector or is that a scalar? So a scalar means numbers like this. So this is what we call as a scalar. If your answer is a vector will look something like this. You got a component form like this. If your answer looks something like this, then it is a vector. So since you just got negative 18, so your answer in this case will be a scalar. How about question number 2B, U dot 2V parenthesis W, vector W. So this one is follow the orders of operation. So you have to do the one inside the parenthesis first, means the dot first. So U in this case is still 3, 3. But V in this case, you have to multiply it by 2. So you will get negative 4, 2. So what you need to do first, follow the orders of operation, you have to do the parenthesis first. So what is the dot product of these two vectors? Anyone?
Wait, aren't you supposed to distribute the 2 first, or do you distribute it after?
You do distribute after. Again,
Okay.
do the one inside the parentheses first. Orders of operations.
No, I'm talking about the 2V, not the W.
Oh, you do the
Aren't-
2V first. Yeah, that's why I read. Oh, sorry, I didn't distribute the 2 inside. So what
Yeah, that's
is,
what I was-
so what is this gonna be? Oops.
Negative 8 and 4.
Yep. So now let's do the dots of these two. What you get?
Yeah, I should get negative 12.
Negative 12.
Yeah.
And then what you do next with this negative 12 is you distribute it to vector W, which is 3 and negative 1. So what is your answer in this case?
Negative 4.
Negative 36 and 12.
And 12. Yep. So is this a vector or is this a scalar?
A vector.
This is a vector. Yep. And lastly, for question 2C, you have to do vector V dot U and then vector W dot V, and then after you subtract it. Does anyone know what is vector V dot vector U is?
Isn't it negative 12 plus 6?
Which is, yep.
Which
is-
is negative 6.
Mhm. Okay, that's correct. And then what is vector W dot vector V?
Negative 12 minus 2, which is negative 6 plus 14, right?
Negative 6 plus 14. Yeah, you're correct. Because once you get this is negative 4, then negative 14, then it becomes plus 14. And what is negative 6 plus 14?
8.
8. Is this a vector or is that a scalar?
Scalar.
It's a scalar. Yep. This is not difficult, right? This is pretty straightforward type questions here. So usually vectors are pretty much basic stuff, not too difficult. Now this is the one that is difficult, is to find the angle. So question 4. Okay. So in order for you to find the angle between these two vectors, you have to use the formula. The formula we use here is the green one, the highlights, because that is the angle between two. You have to use cosine theta equals to u dot v over by the magnitude of u times the magnitude of v. Then after you find what is this number is, you have to do the arc cosine of it. Okay, so we got vector u and v is given us by number 4a here. So vector u in this case is given us by 3, 2. And vector v in this case is given us by 4, 0. Can someone tell me what is u times v is? And what is the magnitude of u? And what is the magnitude of v? And then you just plug everything into here. Anyone know what is u times v here?
Um, 12 plus 0 equals
So-
12.
Yep, this is 12. Very good. So 12 times 0. Yep. How about magnitude of u? This is u. What's the magnitude of it? So magnitude is the square root of what? Three square times plus 2 square. So it's like a distance, a square plus like a Pythagorean theorem actually. So a square plus b square, and I take a square. What is this one going to be? Anyone? Square root of what?
13.
13. Yep, 9 plus 4. And what is the magnitude of v here? Hmm? Anyone?
4.
Yep, this is 4, right? Which is square root of 16, right? So now you just plug it in into this this formula. So u dot v is 12. Magnitude of u is square root of 13. And magnitude of v is times 4. So take out your calculator. Make sure you put parentheses on here. This is very important because they're multiplying. So take your calculator, do what is 12 divided by the parentheses, the square of 13 times 4. And then after that, you do the arc cosine of it. Once you finish what you get, you do the arc cosine of it, and you get yourself your answer. Don't forget the parentheses on the third square root here. You get an answer here?
Yeah, is it 33.69?
Yep, that is correct. Anyone have any questions here? Now, for question B, they just give it to you in another form. This is called a question 4A, is we call it as a component form. Question 4B is given to us in a linear combination form. Can someone write this UV in a component form? So U component form is what? 2 and -3. This is what is the component form for vector u. And what's the component form for vector v? 4 and 3. Okay. So I want you, everyone here, to repeat what we did in 4a for question 4b. So usually we write that in a component form because it's easier for us to do it. So you do the same thing, find what is u dot v is. Find what is the magnitude of u. And find what is the magnitude of v. And you plug it into this formula. Yes, these kind of questions will be asked in your test next week. So make sure you write this formula in your cheat sheet because you're allowed to use one, right? In your test, just the front page. What else should see? So make sure, guys, when you do this in your online homework, make sure you bold the vector UV, or if you want, draw the lines on it, like what I did here. That is to telling us that's the vector. If you don't do it in my test, I'm not that picky, but just telling you that in your online homework, they're very picky, so we'll be careful. Anyone know what is u dot v in this case?
3.
So is how you get 3? I don't think so. It's 3.
I did the math wrong. Sorry.
Be careful. This is not that difficult. So anyone, what's u dot v is?
Would it be -1?
Yep, that's -1. Yep. What is the magnitude of u?
Two squared plus or -3 squared.
No, it's always plus.
I'm saying that because the sign is negative.
So what
The
is
sign
what
of
you
3.
so what you get?
So 2 plus -3. They're both squared.
So what you get?
Oh, in total. For -5. Or is
No,
it 5? I'm sure.
no. So 2 squared is 4. What is -3 squared?
9
And we always what?
at
At.
so 13.
All right, next, vector v. Anyone?
I got 5.
Yep, 5. 3, 4, 5, Pythagorean triplets. All right, plug all these into this EK formula. Use your calculator. This is the formula you have to plug. The arc cosine of -1 over by square root of 13 times 5. Again, you need extra parentheses here. This is very important. Students who did not put extra parentheses on down here in your calculator, you will get it wrong. Anyone? forget to put parentheses. Tell you to do that, and I did not do it. Anyone?
93.18.
Sorry. Give me a sec. Oopsie. 93.18. That's correct. Everyone good? So you can tell that this test is a very heavy on calculator. So make sure you guys know how to use your calculator to find all these numbers. Now, question C, they give us in this form. This is called the direction form. So you have to write this back into the component form. So can someone tell me what is cosine pi over 4? And sine pi over 4. Unit circle.
2 over 2.
So that means that your first component for root for vector u is √2/2, and the second component is also √2/2 because that is what happens when you do the cosine pi over sine pi 4. Anyone know what is cosine pi half and sine pi half? Cosine pi half is
0 and 1 for cosine and sine.
Yep. So this is your component form u and v, and you repeat the same thing as what we did here. You do u dot v, and then you do the absolute the magnitude of u, and then you also find the magnitude of v. So as long as you can write all this form in the component form, then the rest is pretty much easy. You guys all right here? Anyone know what is u dot v for this case? This is pretty easy.
Is it square root 2 over 2?
What about the magnitude of u? What is the square of this? Anyone? What's the square of √2/2? Anyone? Hello?
1/2.
No. Yes, sorry, that's correct. So yep, square of this is 1/2. So when you square this, this is actually 2/4, which is the same thing as 1/2. Yep. And the same thing happens when you square of this. This is 1/2 also. Okay, the same. And what is 1/2 plus 1/2?
1.
And root of 1? 1, right?
Yeah.
And what is the magnitude of v? This is also easy.
1. Or yeah, 1.
Yep, 0 square is 0, 1 square is 1. So add them up is still 1. Root of 1 is still 1. Now plug all this back into this formula. You will get arc cos, and then you do arc cosine. What is, because this is all 1 times 1, right? Because you have 1 and 1 in here. And this is √2/2. So this is no longer exist. But I mean, the 1 is redundant because anything over 1 is still the same thing. So anyone remember what is arc cosine of √2/2?
$45.
Yep, 45 degrees. That is your answer. Yep. Questions here on 4C for ABC. So this is when the question asking us. So make sure you guys know what the question is asking you guys before you before you jump to the next one. And this is the question is asking for what is the angle between the vectors. So this is how we figure out. Okay, and we're gonna do the 7 is very easy. So they want you to figure out if these two are orthogonal. So question 7 is super easy. So how do we know if those are orthogonal? Anyone?
If
The
they're
U-
equal to 0.
So I want you guys to go ahead and figure out is 7a orthogonal or not. What you get when you multiply this? Anyone?
-3 plus 75.
That will give us 72, right? Is this orthogonal?
Nope.
This is not. Okay. Question 7b. What we do in this case is, because this is theta, so we do the same thing, we multiply them. So can someone tell me what happens when you multiply cosine theta with sine theta? You get cosine theta, sine theta, plus, what is sine theta times negative cosine theta? You get negative sine theta cosine theta. What do you get when you add these two up?
0.
0, yes. So the question is this orthogonal or not?
Yes.
Yes, this is orthogonal. So it's very straightforward type orthogonal, right? Just dot them and then see if the dot the two products and see if they are orthogonal or not. Now the next one is we use the other form of dot product. So as you know that dot product comes in two forms. One form is where you just do what we just did, the dot between those two, you get yourself a scalar. And then the other dot product is the alternative form where you do the u dot v in this case is you take the absolute the magnitude of u times the magnitude of v times the cosine theta. So this happens when the question provides us the magnitudes and the theta the angles between these two vectors. So this is something like question number 6. So if you look at question number 6, is asking us to find what is the u dot v, given us that the magnitude of u is 100, the magnitude of v is 250, and the theta is pi over 6. So what you do here is just plug all this into this formula and then put it in your calculator. So u in this case, magnitude of u is 100. Magnitude of v in this case is 250. And then times cosine of pi over 6. Because your theta in this case is pi over 6. Anyone know what is cosine pi over 6 is? What the value is? Anyone?
Square root of 3 over 2.
So this is root 3 over 2, 60 degrees, 30 degrees, yeah. So now you can multiply this. If you want, you can just take the 2 goes into 150 times. So you just type 50 times 250. What's 50 times 250? 12,500 square root of 3. So this will be your answer for question 6. So you simply just type this, use the alternative form for the dot products. This is only happens if a question gives us the magnitudes and the angle between those two vectors. Okay. Questions with this dot products here. Pretty much easy, right? This is not tough. So that's why your homework that is due on this Wednesday is going to be 8.3 and 8.4. So make sure you guys do this. This is not tough. This is actually pretty straightforward. So when you come back on Wednesday, we still have a little bit more left in 8.3, which is called the component form. We call that as a projection view onto V. And then I will start the last section, which is 8.6. Okay, so 8.6 is the last one that we will talk about. This is 8.6, not 8.5, which is called the trigonometric form of a complex number. So this is so we'll talk about that on Wednesday class. And don't forget, your test is on Monday and Wednesday, depends on your last name. We have a review, so I want you guys to go ahead and do the review, print out the test. It does give you 10 points to your test, not an extra credit. Okay, so this is very, very important. Please start working on your review here. So don't procrastinate. Start working on your work. So I'm going to stop the Zoom today. Anyone have any questions